Welcome back to our 36th episode of the Launch Your Farm Show, where I interview Andrew Perrie with Revel Realty in Niagara On The Lake. In this episode, Andrew and I talk about why creating a top-notch customer service system can not only serve your clients, but it can bring in a ton of referrals too. Andrew shares how he started making his mark in his community by creating a catchy video that got his name out there super quickly and got him over 70,000 views in his first week. And we talk about what you can do to build trust with agents outside of your area and how to get them to refer you business on an ongoing basis. Andrew shares a super easy way to service other agents just as well as you service your clients and to help build a foundation for long-term referrals. And we talk about how to use social media to compound your efforts and build a group of raving fans. Plus, we talk about a ton of other ideas that you can use to grow your geographic farm. So be sure to check out this episode, like and subscribe, and enjoy the episode with Andrew. Welcome back to another episode of the Launch Your Farm Show. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and today we've got a great guest. It's Andrew Perrie from Revel Realty. Andrew, take a second, tell us a bit about yourself and why you're here.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, Ryan. I've been seeing the episodes from when you first launched.
Awesome.
I believe it was Chuck, right? Was that?
Yep.
Yes, yeah, good memory. So I'm Andrew Perrie. I run the team, the Fine Estates team here in beautiful Niagara on the Lake, and we're actually opening our own brokerage office here in just a few weeks with Revel Realty. And I'm excited to sit down and chat. You know, community is everything to us, myself and my team, and I love talking about it.
Awesome. Well, I always like to start with kind of your history, how you got into it, what did it look like for you, and then we'll move into what you're doing now.
Yeah, sure. You know what? I had some really good friends of mine. Long story short, I was a district manager with a company called LA Fitness. People listening might have heard that. And I was out in Edmonton running about 3 or 4 clubs there. And then, I was just watching a whole bunch of friends getting into the real estate industry around 2016, in and around there. I was like, and this is no offense to my friends if they're watching, if you're one of those realtors, but I was like, if they could do it, I could do it. And honestly, that's always a piece of advice that I give to and then to further that conversation, if I can do it, then you can definitely do it. And so that's kind of just how it started. You know what? My son was 2 months old. We had just moved out to Edmonton, and it was, everybody was like, Andrew, you finally sorted your life out. You finally got a corporate gig that pays you commission, salary, and bonuses. And you just had your kid, right? But so who packs up all their lives after just being there for a few months and having their kid and, heading back to Ontario to start a real estate business? Nobody. And that's just how it went. And I have not looked back. I'm in my 4th year and I've accomplished so much in this short time that, I'm always excited for the next year. Because if one of my latest Facebook posts was about that, is every year is something that's changing.
Is awesome. It's exciting to watch, and I've seen you start from that beginning time and really grow into where you're at. I want to go start with that move, because I think for a lot of people, when they think of farming, they think, I have to be there. I've got to be someone who's from the area. I got to grow up there. I got to know everybody to even start farming. For you packed up, restarted your life over again. What did that look like for you, and what was that like when you got started? Because you didn't grow up in Niagara, so
that's what. And as I forgot to introduce myself as the director of recruitment as well. See, there's so many things I do, but it's funny because I interview so many, probably about 6 to 8 realtors a week. Yeah. And the one thing they always tell me is that it's I've lived here all my life, so I know everybody, or I just moved here and I don't know anyone and I don't know what to do. And my answer to both those questions is pretty simple. That does not matter. It does not matter. You could live across the street for 50 years from somebody and you could have never met them, or B, never had a really good relationship with them to begin with, and they're just going to hire anybody. So I knew that I did have some, I needed to catch up on some momentum versus some of the other realtors for sure. Yep. I'm not going to lie about that, but I felt that, look, all these businesses were doing cool video marketing, cool ways to introduce your brand to the world. And when I moved to Niagara, things were happening in Toronto, in terms of video marketing and all that stuff. But in Niagara, it was like, it was still iPhone pictures. It was still very, very slow paced marketing. And I knew that I had to come out of the gates, and I had to come out of the gates hard and fast. Yep. So what I did is if you've seen those Dollar Beard Club videos,
Yeah.
actually Alex Brown, who's a co-owner, a good friend of mine, but I was always captivated by that. So my first video definitely was not on the quality of Dollar Beard Club, but it's the first thing that I was like, okay, so how could I kind of get out there with the splash and make some noise? So I did a video, and it opens up with kind of like a Michael Scott from The Office thing, and I'm sipping my coffee and I'm looking out the window, and then the videographer looks down, and I'm sitting there in my Toronto Leaf boxers. Thinking back now, that type of corny marketing is probably not something that my brand is aligned with now, but
Yeah.
I could not be where I am today without that one video. And I think we got about 70,000 views in my first week of launching that video.
Wow.
So honestly, it's to go answer your question a little bit more direct. What did that look like for me? I didn't think about it. I just decided to get out there. I didn't even door knock. I just really did stuff that was fun, which was, join a hockey league, join community events, start meeting people, and of course, hit them hard with some good old-fashioned marketing.
Yeah, which is awesome. Yeah, and again, a lot of agents, they'll pick an area because they live in it, and I said that's fine. If you live in there, that's great. But like you said, you don't know everyone, and that doesn't mean it's the best place to focus on. But on the flip side, if you do live there or don't live there, it doesn't matter. It's getting out there, getting connected, like you said, getting connected with the community, getting connected with the business owners, and really making an impact. And you could be brand new, you could be 70 years old, you could be from the area, not from the area. It really just takes that seed, that farm seed, planting it, and just get going with it. So when you started with that, how did you decide to focus and stay focused? Because for a lot of agents, they get distracted and they try to work all over. I know for you, Niagara On The Lake was really your main focus. Why did you pick that area, and what would that look like for you when we were
launched? That honestly, that's a really good question, because when I first started, it's always funny because you always hear people like motivational speakers, the big Tony Robbins thing, never let anybody tell you can't do anything. And it's so true. It is so true, because when I first moved here, the first realtor I met who was helping me buy my own house, which I have mad respect for, but he's like, "Oh, you want to get into real estate, Jay?" I'm like, yeah. I want to sell $1 million houses. I want to live in Niagara on the Lake. I want to sell in Niagara on the Lake. That's exactly what I want. He's like, "Well, you know what? I'd rather sell $300,000 house than or houses than 10 $1 million houses." And he's like, you got to be careful how you brand yourself, because those folks that are in the $300, $500, $600 range might not think that you're a good person to reach out to. And while I understand that, and there is truth to that, the way it came off in multiple conversations was like, "Oh, you don't want to do that. You don't want to waste your time, especially if you don't know anybody here, or especially because you're so new." Niagara on the Lake, for those who don't know, I probably should preface that with the average selling price here is over $1 million.
Yeah.
And it's a hard market to break into because there's only 14,000 people. So there's only, a couple hundred units being sold every year or less. And for a long time, this market has been run by the same handful of realtors. So, man, they were not happy when I showed up. That's for sure. But I just felt that, okay, this is the life I want. I want to live in Niagara on the Lake. I want to drive a nice car. I want to live in a nice house. I want my children to live in a safe neighborhood with amazing schools. And I only had one goal. Really, many people have many goals. I want to sell this much. I just want to sell in Niagara on the Lake, live in Niagara on the Lake. Whatever it took to get there, it was just one of those things where you just kind of buckled up and did what you needed to do.
And that focus is what pays off. And a lot of people get distracted along the way. They have that idea, the desire to do that, but then they start making decisions that take them off that. And you've really been focused on it. And now as a result of that, you've grown, and I've seen your business grow. Now you're able to take more deals other places, and your business has expanded, but it was that pig-headed determination and that focus is what allowed you to really expand.
Yeah. And you know what? It's a lot to do with the fact, and I understand, I totally get it. If you are buckling down on your goal, but financing comes up, you got mortgage, you got car payments. I wish I can't tell people to do what I do, because look, I didn't, my parents were well off, but I didn't come from money. I didn't move to Niagara with money. I had money from what I saved from my corporate gig, but I took a whole year off while I was going to Orea, which a lot of people don't do that either, right? But my son was, turning 1. It was a good time to spend some time with him. But anyways, a lot of people would have buckled under the pressure and said, "Look, We're not selling anything. We've got one listing. We don't have buyers coming through. So we need to shift gears and start selling the lower price units in a higher quantity. Where once you make up that shift, you've got to pick up, further 2 steps back.
Right.
So I was always of the mindset is I've taken this risk.
Yeah.
I bought my first house without a paycheck.
Yeah.
So I just got my license, bought a house a couple of months later, and I didn't get paid until maybe 2 months after that. So I'm a big risk taker, and I think that is what helped me just kind of keep that focus in, because a lot of people get distracted by their financial needs. And again, I totally understand that, but at the same time, if you make a decision, you should really be committed to it.
Exactly. Wholeheartedly. So for you, obviously breaking into that market was not tricky, but it was, like you said, a lot of people are advising you not to do it because it's an old boys club and it's, who are you? What did that look like to break in other than that video? Because obviously you had to stand out, you had to be different, and you couldn't just do what everyone else was doing. What did it look like for you when you were getting that started?
And here's another thing. And again, this is not to put down any business, but there was a hole in the level of service, and it was obvious. And luckily, I got a phone call that really jump-started my business. I did know the family because I played hockey with the son. But the main reason for their call was because somebody had badmouthed me and the company about us being inexperienced and, all that other jazz. Don't need to get into it too much. So there was already a lack of service that you would expect from a luxury realtor, no less.
Yeah.
But also now you've just left these people intrigued. Well, who is this Andrew Perrie guy then? If all these listing agents want to come and talk about him, he must be pretty big news. So that's how I got one of my first listings in Old Town Niagara On The Lake, because they wanted to see what all the buzz is about. So to answer your question again, it's just, I was just doing what I thought realtors should do when servicing their clients, and things worked out. Imagine that, right?
That's one of my favorite business models is Richard Branson, and he talks about finding underserviced or poorly run industries and then going in and going against the grain and completely doing it differently. And with his whole Virgin Airlines and Virgin Records and all that stuff, he said, where can I find that hole? And you did that in your area and said, okay, people are doing it this way, I'm going to do it this way. Stand out, offer that service, and go above and beyond.
Honestly, it was so simple, because when I would call and book showings, some of these agents would not return my calls.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Like, I'm asking you for financials on a 20-acre farm, and you're giving me projected rates on what it would be to switch it from peaches to grapes. Like, what? That's not what I asked you, right? And so it's something as simple as that. But I did have one small tactic for those of you who like to door knock. I mean, it's a little, right now, COVID and everything. However, that will go away. But I remember it was the day I got my license. I stapled punched a whole bunch of business cards to a whisk and a bag of Hershey Kisses. And it was around Christmas. And I said, "We whisk you a Merry Christmas."
Yeah.
And that's how I got my second listing, my first listing. It was just something simple as that. Corny, yes, right. And now I've come up with new and improved ways, but something to break down those walls from a market. You just have to find what is typical in that market. What is every agent doing in that market? And if it's working, try to emulate it and do it your own way. Yep. But if you're seeing something that, like, Niagara is a very old school town, Niagara on the Lake. They have 3 newspapers for a town of 14,000 people, and they read them all, right? They love going to the mail. They love getting a knock on the door, right? So it's so different. You have to find what's unique about your town and kind of double down on that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I say that too, that each area has its own unique features. Demographics are different in each area, and you have to figure out what voice is going to be heard and what do people want, and how can you service that. And when you can fill that void and figure out what do people want, and can I get in front of them, you can then stand out. If you're doing the same thing everyone's doing, it may be harder, but if you can just veer off slightly different than what they're doing, or do exactly what they're doing and then double down, and that'll help too.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
So when you started doing that marketing, you started gaining traction. How long did it really take for you to get to that point where you're like, okay, I made the right decision. This is a good decision. Obviously you had the commitment up front, but like when were you like, okay, this is working?
I'll be honest, the day I got my license. I know it might not have been the answer you guys were looking for, but it truly was. The day that I got it, and that day that I actually had my license is the day I felt free. And my life has personally, spiritually, and obviously professionally changed since that day. But you know what? I knew I had made it when and made it, you know what I mean? I did 4 deals in my first, I don't know, what was it, like 60 days? Because I joined in December. So I don't count December, okay? So January and February, by February, I had a listing and 2 deals. So by then I realized that, holy smoke, even my bonus checks weren't as big as the ones that I was getting. And at the same time, and you know what, a lot of people I talk to that, yeah, but you know, don't you do it for the clients? Obviously I do it for the clients, but I would be stupid and lying if I didn't say I was doing it for some financial gain for myself and my family, right? And when I saw that first paycheck, I said, wow, that is the biggest thing I have ever seen. And trust me, it wasn't that big. It was maybe about $12,000, which at the time, 30% of it went to the brokerage and 30% of it went to the government. So it was still one of those things where I'm like, wow, okay, if I buckle down and focus, I can do 50 deals a year at this commission, and there you go, my life is set. But then you hit that number and then you make new goals, right? Yeah.
So for you, when you, I know for a lot of what you do is you work with a lot of referrals from other agents from out of town, because Niagara on the Lake, for people who don't know, it's kind of tucked away. It's that destination place in Niagara that's kind of off on its own. A lot of the referrals you get, or a lot of the business you get, is from referrals. And this is the thing I always tell people, like when people think of farming, most agents think of farming as just connecting with the locals and trying to get their listings. There's the buy side of it and the referrals, the agent referrals. And that's a huge part of it. And that's a big part of your business. So can you talk us through what that looks like for you, how that transpired, and what that's been like?
Yep. Absolutely. So it all started from a level of service. What I tell new people when they're getting started, and I had a really good conversation with a lady. I won't drop her full name just in case, but her name's Laura. She's a future realtor from Stratford. She was introduced to me by Katie Steinfeld. You know,
yep, she's been on the show.
Yep, she's great. They're amazing. And so we were introduced, and she was asking me, how do I get started? I really do want to be that referral person. She felt that Stratford was that next go-to place similar to Niagara on the Lake. And I said, look, it's very simple. Think of how you can service the realtors the same way that you service your clients. And so the way I did it was because, mind you, what I'm about to say, I didn't know I was going to be this busy when I offered this. But I had, you know, a deal here, deal there, but I did have some free time. And I learned how to take a headshot, remove the background, add it to a marketing piece. And I posted in a very popular real estate group. I said, who wants one of these? Send me your headshot, send me your logo, and I'll do it. Wow, 500 people later.
Wow.
Yeah, 500. I could still go through my Canva and see all your pretty faces from 4 or 5 years ago. It's just, so it started with that. And because it happened on such a massive scale, it helped build the foundation for my future level of service. Because obviously I can't do that now. I can't say, hey, okay, guys, give me 1,000 headshots and I'll try to do a piece of graphic design for you. But what I can do, and what this has led to, is a variety of different small areas of expertise that people perceive I have. And people reach out to me. I probably get a couple of Facebook messages a day, a couple of Instagram messages a day, obviously a ton of LinkedIn, but most of that's spam, let's be honest. And then a few emails, right? So what happened with this little piece of expertise that I knew about, I shared it with all the realtors. And no matter what brokerage you were from, let's connect, let's help out each other. And then that just led from, hey, here's the next thing I know about. Here's the next thing I know about. Very similar to what you do, to be honest. And auto as well, you know, from Agent Locator, he does it a lot. Cody May from Studio PTBO, Andrew Foliato, obviously. You bring a ton of value. And kind of those relationships, they almost get reciprocated almost automatically. It's like the universe is like, you just helped somebody out and it drastically improved their lives. This small little tidbit of value. And so this is what we're going to do for you. We're going to give you a referral. So, but obviously there's no better way to get a referral than to give a referral. That's number one.
That's super important too. And I think a lot of agents miss that, and they'll say, I'm willing to take your referrals, I'll pay X amount. It's like the best way to open that is to send a referral. Or if you can't send a referral, is to refer someone who can refer. So that's one thing that I've always seen a lot of agents do well with, where it's like they're in the groups and Facebook groups and stuff, and they'll share someone else is looking for a referral and they'll tag that person. They're not getting any money from it. They're not getting any referral paycheck from them, but they're connecting that person to that person. And that's a great way, if you don't have a referral, is to connect another referral.
That's amazing. That's amazing. But, and I love that. I absolutely love that. That's honestly, I would never say anything bad about that, except for what I'm about to say, of course, because a lot of people tag me that way, and that's how it started. And I absolutely love that. And I try to reciprocate as best as I can to each and every person who tags my name. However, having said that, there's these things like referral groups and stuff like that, where it becomes obvious that you probably don't know that person, because it's the same few people taking the same people, and it's so obvious. And I'm not trying to point anybody's fingers, because this is what that's for. And if you've worked with them, it's great. But it's just like, I've sent referrals to some of those people and they're not reciprocating it to me. And here's another tidbit too. You want to choose somebody that's loud on social media, or, who is active, because, and again, you always got to choose somebody who's best for your client. Don't forget about that.
I agree.
But secondary, who is going to have your back when the time comes? And that's what's important to maximizing on those referrals.
100%. I had I won't say any names, but I had an agent that I was referring to in the city, and I sent her a few referrals, and then I started noticing she was doing deals in my area and then wasn't sending me business. And then I said, listen, I said, it's a two-way street. Like, I'm happy to send you referrals, but like, refer backward. And it's like, you got to do what's best for the client, like you said, first, but then obviously business wise, you want that reciprocity. But I think, again, a part of that comes down to, because people know where you work, because you're so hyper focused on Niagara on the Lake, it's easy then to get those referrals, because people know you do that area and you focus on the area. When people hear that, they think that. If someone says, like, it's a joke, but I had an American client, they said, oh, I have a referral for Ryan in Canada. It's like, okay, I didn't do my job if they think just because I'm in Canada. But when people know where you live and they know where you focus on, it becomes that much easier. And it's easier to then find referrals for people when they know you're the specialist, you're the go-to person, and they'll want to refer you. Then it just becomes self-fulfilling.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people, when you're farming or networking, farming, right, online with your realtors and other buyers and sellers, obviously, I'll be straight up honest with you. I don't, other than I have a team, so I supply them with online leads, of course. But for me personally, I don't do any marketing to buyers and sellers. I really don't. The branding and the idea behind my brand, it impresses some buyers and sellers. Yes. So, when you first find me, they're like, oh, wow, okay, this looks pretty impressive. But the whole goal for, and again, when I say goal, I just say, this is my mindset. This is how I like to market. This is how it comes out of me naturally. I like to be the guy in the suit. I like the guy to have a nice car. I like to be the guy to follow that up with credible sales, as well as credible value for the people who do follow me. But I do that intentionally because it makes me feel good, but I know other realtors are watching. And that's a big, big thing. And that's where other people choose to spend their time farming buyers and sellers online, where I farm realtors and like you said, reciprocate to all of those other realtors who provide me value as well, right?
Which is awesome. So one of the big things you offer, I know, is your concierge service. So can you talk to us about that and what that looks like and how you develop that?
Exactly. So I love that question. And because it really means a lot to me, what we do. And because 85% of my business is agent-to-agent referrals, guess what? Half of those people, or more than half, I guess, are coming to a town where they don't necessarily understand the values. They don't necessarily understand the lifestyle and culture and the community. So for example, you could buy one house here that's $1.5 million, $2 million. And you compare that to a house in Toronto. It might be smaller in Toronto, but the Toronto house is still going to have, marble floors, this, that, where in Niagara on the Lake, it might be an old heritage building.
Yeah.
So when I try to sell my own listings or sell the town, I invite the buyers down for a day in Niagara on the Lake with me, or a half day or whatever. I take them for lunch. I give them a magazine on the town. I give them our magazine at Revel. We produce a magazine a year.
Nice.
And the Homes and Land magazine. Bought 2 bottles of wine, a red and a white. And I also get them a gift card to either Balzac's or Carlotta Gelato, or a Budapest Bake Shop, which has these beautiful chimney cakes. And I make it an experience. We go for lunch. We've done wine tours. We've done helicopter tours,
awesome.
Right? So, when we open our new office, we're going to be stepping that up, right? When you buy that Dom Perignon's coming in a wood box with shavings, we're picking you up. You just landed in Toronto on an international flight from Dubai. We're picking you up and we're flying you from there to here. We're picking you up in a town car or something. We can't obviously do that for all our clients, but there's a select few that we try to share that luxury concierge aspect to it. Yep. But anybody who gets referred to me, no matter what the price range, they're getting that initial gift bag and tour around the town.
Yeah, which is awesome. And that does 2 things. It impresses the client and it impresses the agent, because they're going to go back and say, thank you. That was such a great experience. That was awesome. Thank you for referring me to Andrew. And it was a great experience. I had something similar where we referred a client to an agent in Toronto, and they had such a good experience. We were like, oh crap, like he's going to make us look bad. His experience was so good. It's like, oh, gotta be careful. So that it impresses people and it creates that sense of reciprocity. Now, if they're going to go tell their friends and family too, that the consumer, because they had a great experience and they want that same experience to be passed on to people they know, which is awesome.
Exactly. And Niagara on the Lake is such a community and lifestyle driven town that it's really, you really do have to come to experience it first.
Yes. Yeah.
Because like I said, somebody might look at this and be like, why is that house $1.5 million? And well, you got to understand where you live. And this is why I want to share this experience with you, because once you come here, you're never going to want to leave.
I think it's also important to note too, for people who don't know, that Niagara on the Lake is in Niagara, which generally speaking has a much lower price point overall. So it's the cream of the crop of Niagara. And then if you compare it to Toronto, it's like there's little areas outside of Toronto which would be comparable in price, but Niagara on the Lake is at the top for Niagara, which is great. That's the market you went after, and you knew you wanted it, which is awesome.
Yeah, exactly. It's surrounded by thousands of acres of farmland. So you've got to drive 15 minutes off the highway. Yeah. So it's this little secluded area with, 88 wineries, and one of which is my wife's dad's winery. So it's a really beautiful place.
It is. My very first girlfriend was from there, so
nice.
I have some fond memories and some not so fond memories from there in the lake. But,
yeah, that's awesome.
So if you were to give our viewers one last piece of advice on them creating this brand or getting into the luxury market, what would you suggest?
Okay, so this is a really important piece of advice here. So you have to know what you want, and you have to see where do your strengths line up to what you want. So if you're selling luxury, do you know a lot about custom designs, or do you know maybe a lot about rural properties? Because a lot of these properties here that are over 2-3 million, a lot of them are going to be rural farms. Yeah. So try to align yourself. And if you don't have necessarily any preference in terms of style, rural, business, winery, greenhouse, then do what I've done and kind of combine the two with the actual community. And then once you find out exactly what you want to do, you need to double, triple down on all of that in terms of developing a brand for yourself. And you need to do that every day. So you have to be consistent in your marketing. And honestly, it's a daily thing. If you don't have time to be on Instagram and Facebook, 6 hours a day when you're first starting to get your brand off the ground, then, don't even bother.
Exactly. It's not just hire someone to design a logo, put it out there, and then.
Oh my God. Yeah. No. Logos. When I talk about brand, I don't even mean logos or colors. I mean, what is your message and how do you make people feel? And at the end of the day, that's the only thing that's important.
Awesome. It's great advice. So we always wrap up with a best book section. So what's one book that's made an impact in your life or you think would make an impact on our viewers' lives?
Oh man. Okay. So this one is not one that you might expect when you're trying to push it out for advice. But as soon as you asked me that, there's only one book that stuck out in my mind that's meant a lot to me in the last 6 months. It's called Rocket Fuel. It's about, about innovators and implementers, right? So I'm an innovator, but I'm too busy to implement. And it's a book all about finding your yin, your yang, your second in command. And honestly, I wouldn't have a business like I have now without my second in command.
It's awesome. Yeah. Excellent book. I can't recommend that book enough. It's fantastic. I bought one for my brother. I bought one for my old business partner. And it's just,
it's a short little book, but it's great. Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you very much. That's great. How can our viewers check out what you're up to and connect with you if they're looking to?
Okay. So recently have been doubling down, right, on TikTok. So follow me on TikTok at A Perrie, Instagram at A Perrie, and then I'm all over Facebook, obviously. But you can check us out and keep an eye open because our brokerage office opens very soon here in Niagara On The Lake.
Awesome. It's exciting news.
I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being on here. Really appreciate that.
Very welcome.
Glad to have you share your passion. You can tell the passion that you have for it. And I know our viewers will really appreciate this episode, though. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. See you, everybody.
Thanks for checking out today's episode. If you'd like more videos like this, be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out our Facebook page and our other social media channels. Looking forward to bringing you more great content like this, and happy farming.